Hi, and welcome to Harnessing the Power of PowerPoint. My name is Teresa Quant. I am the CEO of Teresa Quant and Teacher Author Brilliance. Teresa Quant is the business where I make and sell teacher resources, and Teacher Author Brilliance is the business where I help teachers become teacher authors or grow their teacher author business. Now, a little bit more about myself. I graduated from the University of Utah in 2009 with a degree in elementary education. I taught sixth grade for 5 years in an elementary school. I am now a full-time teacher author, and I have been for over a decade. I love PowerPoint. I use it on a daily basis, and I cannot wait to show you all the different things you can do with this program so that you can start unleashing your creativity. I don't often talk about my income and how much I make. In fact, I keep that very private, but I do understand the benefit of you knowing how much I have made so that you can feel confident in learning from an expert. So while I'm not going to tell you the exact amount, I will tell you that I have made well over $1 million on TPT. And what you are learning from me, you can be confident is both accurate and current information. You are learning from a professional who has over a decade of experience. Now with that, let's get started. 5 strategies to harnessing the power of PowerPoint. Number 1, I want you to develop a look. We will then talk about choosing the right fonts and how to use them in PowerPoint. Then we will talk about creating brilliant covers and how to do that in PowerPoint. We'll also talk about how to include color and blackline clip art options and how to create a digital option of your resource. Let's start with developing a look. What does that mean? Well, it kind of just means developing a style so that your audience can recognize you, that you stand out in a crowd and someone can say, oh, that's Teresa Quant's resource, just by looking at the cover or looking at some of the pages. Or they might know it belongs to a specific product line based on how it looks. Now, PowerPoint can help you keep your look consistent. Number 1, you're going to create a color palette. I always suggest starting with your brand colors, but obviously sometimes when you're creating a product, your brand colors aren't going to make sense in the product. So you might have a product color palette that you want to insert into PowerPoint as well. So let's take a look in PowerPoint and see how that works. Okay, so I'm in PowerPoint, and if I were to come to the Insert tab and choose the shape and insert a shape here, I'm going to have these default color palette colors from PowerPoint in the color palette pop up. And they're not really the colors I want to use. So to change these colors, I'm going to go to Design. Then I'm going to click on this little down arrow here, and I'm going to choose Colors. And you can see I've already made some custom color palettes because these colors here, they're all the same. Those are the ones in PowerPoint. I also have some of my tab, which is Teacher Author Brilliance, and Teresa Quant, which is my teacher business. These are my brand colors. So to do that, you can click on colors and you can right click and you can edit them. Now what you're going to do is you're going to click on these different accent colors and you're going to do more colors. And you're going to put your hex code here for your brand colors. Now I keep my hex codes in Canva. I have a brand kit and they're all just right there. In fact, I'm going to show you what that looks like. So I have my codes right here and I can just copy and paste. Take the color, copy and paste. So that's what I'm going to do. You might have different colors somewhere else, but I'm going to, and I didn't even hit copy, but I'm going to copy and paste them in here and create my color palette. Okay, so now I have inserted all of my colors. I just went in and did copy and paste there, and I have my brand colors here. Now the hyperlinks are when you are connecting different slides together. In fact, I'm going to show you how to use hyperlinks later on in the lesson, but you don't want them to be white or black. Otherwise they'll be hard to see. So just pick another color for the hyperlinks to be. Then you can name your color palette and save. Now, when I come up here and I want to click shape format, I can change it to any of these colors. I can also insert a text box. Whoops. And I can change the color here. What I like is I can also change to the different hues in that same color scheme, so it all blends and looks really nice. And that is how you add your color palette in PowerPoint. Next, when you're developing your style, you're going to make sure that you have your brand fonts on your computer, and you're going to stick to those brand fonts as much as possible. Now, sometimes it's not going to make sense to use your brand fonts in your product. So just make sure to stick to the same fonts in the product or product line so it stays consistent and it can become recognizable. Which leads to number 3, when creating a product line, keep the look consistent throughout all pages and products. So try and choose the same clip artist, try and keep the fonts the same, use the same colors, use the same headers and shapes on the pages so that you can have a consistent look for your product. Now here I've developed some looks for my covers. My covers all have a similar look and feel, but they're slightly different for the product lines. So this is a Cracking the Classroom code, which are escape rooms. These are their covers. And then you see here that same color scheme, but it's a different product line. And these are some project-based learning products. So I have a different look, but I'm keeping my brands still in it with the fonts and the colors. Now I want to open up some of these products so you can see how I've kept those looks consistent within the product too. Okay, let's start with this escape room. I have chosen clip art that are some monsters, and it's watercolor, and it's the same monster clip art throughout the entire product. I have chosen fonts so that my bold and my header fonts are all the same, and my readable font is all the same. Now, when we look at another product from this product line, we look at the dinosaur one, you're going to notice the same thing, that these numbers, all the same font. The readable text, all the same font. I am using clip art from the same clip artist. It's a watercolor look font. And I have a template so that they all are consistent. So both teachers and students can rely on this product and know what they're getting. Same with the PBL units. So with this one, you can tell here that I have the same clip art and fonts throughout the entire product. I've tried to set up the pages the same. I have the same borders on all the pages. It's very simple and it doesn't clash with everything. It doesn't distract from learning. And if I come to another PBL project within that same products line, you're going to notice I've used the same clip artist throughout the whole products line, and I've used the same fonts, headers, things like that. Our next tip for harnessing the power of PowerPoint is choosing the right fonts. When you're creating products in PowerPoint, it's important to choose the correct fonts. I want you to remember, number 1, who your audience is. This is an important one because you might think, oh, my audience is teachers, but who's going to be using your product? Most of the time it's going to be students. Sometimes it will be teachers, but a lot of times it's going to be students. So you don't want to use fancy script fonts that are full of personality that are hard to read, especially for those younger students in 1st and 2nd grade. Even script fonts, when they get really fancy, can be hard for older students to read. So you want to make sure you're choosing the appropriate font for your audience. Number 2, what is your product for? Is it for decor? Is it for a reading center? Is it for math? Just make sure that it is staying consistent and that those fonts are readable for that product. And the third tip is the most important. Less is more when it comes to fonts. You don't want to overclutter a page and make it really messy with so many fonts. So I usually like to stick to the rule 3 fonts or less per page. Now, that might actually be a good rule when you're creating a product, 3 fonts or less throughout the entire product, but sometimes that's not possible. So just think per page, you don't want 3 or more fonts, and to keep the fonts consistent throughout the entire product. Now I want to look over a font pairing guide that I've created, and good news, I've included it in the handout, so make sure you check it out. I start the font pairing guide off by giving you links to some of my very favorite font creators. And then I go over different font types, and it's important to kind of know the basics of font types so you know how to pair them together. And then I talk about choosing fonts, keeping it readable, sticking to your brand when possible, less is more. And then I give you some fun tips with pairing fonts, like pair the chunky fonts with the skinny fonts, or use different kerning, and kerning is the spacing between fonts. And I'm going to show you how to do that in PowerPoint. It's actually a really useful tool. It's also fun to mix bold and simple with a decorative script. But something you should always remember is not to pair fonts that are too similar or too decorative. So these are 2 fonts that are both too decorative, and these are far too similar. And same goes with script. You don't want to use 2 script fonts. Now here is our font pairing guide, where I give you some suggestions on what fonts to pair together. I love to use KA fonts, and I have a link at the top of the guide that you'll see, but a lot of these are her fonts that I've used. So make sure to check out that font guide as you are going through the resources in my handout. I promised you I'd show you how to do kerning or spacing of the characters in a font. So here I have a quote that I'm creating, but I want to space out the fonts a little bit. Now, one thing I want to remind you of, when I have 2 different fonts, I always have them each in their own text box because it's easier to manipulate them and move them around the page. If I had both of these fonts in the same text box, the spacing is not going to match up, and it's going to be really difficult to manipulate. So that's just a fun little tip, is to put them each in their own text box. Now back to spacing. If I am going to select the text I want to space out, and I'm going to come up to the ribbon and click on this icon, the down arrow, and I can click on very tight and have it scrunched together, or very loose. Now this comes in handy when you're creating products and you want all of the fonts to be consistent on a page and be the same size, but some words or text just aren't fitting. And so you might play around with the spacing so you can get it all to fit. Now you can even make the spacing more spread out or more squished together. To do that, you just click on the down arrow again and you click more spacing. And we're just going to jump to a big number here and try 20. I actually really like that spacing. I think it looks nice, and we can move this around and fit those letters in between the spacing there. And I think that that would look really good. So that's how you use spacing with your fonts in PowerPoint. Next, we're going to talk about how to create brilliant covers. I'm going to go over the steps on how to do that in PowerPoint, and then we'll create one together. So number 1, you're going to resize your PowerPoint slide to a square. Then you're going to make sure you use your brand colors, especially on your covers, because those are the first thing people see as they're scrolling through TPT or anywhere else you post your resources. Then you want to make sure you use your brand font. Remember, we're trying to stay consistent and have a style that stands out. Then I want you to use real photos and use minimal text. You can save all the extra text and wording for either the title or the description. You want them to be able, when I say them, you want your audience to be able to look at your cover and instantly know what it's all about. Use bold text that's easy to read, and showcase the product. You want to make sure you're using that space to really show what the product's about. This is prime real estate. Don't waste it. And now here are some of my own examples of covers. Okay, in this first example, you can see I've used my brand colors. This green color here. I've also used my brand fonts, and I've used some real photos. This is a mock-up. Now here's a little trick. Right here, these task cards, those aren't actual photos. Those are just screenshots of the product, and I've added a shadow behind them on my cover. Now this example is a digital example. I've used my brand colors as much as I can. This product is not in my brand colors, so I didn't use the brand colors there, but I did as much as I could so I could keep my look consistent. Here's another product that's both digital and printable, so I tried to show it that way, and I'm keeping my brand colors and fonts consistent here, and I'm always writing my name on the product so people know it's mine. And then here's another one. This is another example where I used a mock-up, and then these are just screenshots of the product with a shadow behind them. And then this is one with a real photo. I love using real photos. I just think it's real genuine, and it's going to make you stand out more because a lot of people use mock-ups. So if you're using a real photo, I think that's going to catch the eye more than just a plain mock-up. Now let's create a cover together. I want to just show you what the end product is going to look like, and then we'll get here together as we go. So first, what I did is I changed the size to square. So I clicked design on the PowerPoint ribbon and slide size, custom slide size. And I just made sure that I was doing a 1-to-1 ratio. I did 8.5 by 8.5 because when I create products, I do 8.5 by 11. And so I have already created this cover in an 8.5 by 11 size, and it's easier to transfer it over into the square when I'm creating my covers. So to do that, when I am beginning here, let's go ahead and zoom out a little bit. I have my picture here. I'm just going to make it small so we can have more space. I'm going to start by formatting my background and making it black. And I'm going to add a nice border in my brand color, but I want to make sure I'm using my color palette of my brand colors to make things go quicker and faster. So I'm going to insert a shape. And now I'm going to do shape fill, and I'm going to make it transparent. No fill. And the outline, I'm going to make sure to add a little bit more weight to it. Then I'm going to add my text boxes. And I'm going to have to make these white so it stands out. And we want to make sure we spell that correctly. I might have to adjust the spacing once I have the font on there because I want to take up with my title as much space as possible. So I'm going to come, it's called KG Life is Messy, or All of Me. Life is Messy is another font that I use, but this is All of Me. And I'm going to make it as big as I can. And then I might squish this font together so I can make it just a tad bit bigger. In fact, I can add my own numbers up here as I want. Now I'm going to put classroom code on the bottom. And I'm going to make that a font color. And that's going to be a tad bit smaller so it fits. Maybe we'll space it out just a little bit. And then I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste this here to save time. But this is another font, BMD Life is Messy. And I'm going to put my picture here. I've already taken the photo right there. And there's our cover. The last thing I'm missing is my name in my font. And now we are good to go. Next, we're going to go over how to use color and blackline clip art in PowerPoint and the different reasons why you would want to use either color or blackline. You're going to use Blackline clip art for anything that is printed that the students are going to use, like a worksheet, an activity page, anything that the teacher is making a lot of copies of. And the color is going to be for digital products, classroom decor, posters, something you think the teacher might print out and laminate for lasting use, like maybe a center, things like that. However, it is best practice to include both a black line and a color option because there are teachers who do like to do a lot of printing of color and laminating. So I offer both, and it actually adds more value when you have both options. Okay, now I want to show you how we can quickly change out clip art in PowerPoint from color to black line so that you can create quicker. Okay, so I have this poster. Feeling all your feelings is hard, but that's what they're for. Feelings are for feeling, all of them, even the hard ones. And I want to make this black and white. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the slide. And it's easy to change the text to black and white. But how are we going to change the clip art? Well, there's a couple of different ways to do that. Now, it doesn't often work with all clip art to do it this first way I'm going to show you, especially when we're working with the watercolor clip art. It tends to leave the shading and the clip art looks off, but it does work for some clip art. So I like to show you how to do this. I'm going to select all the clip art that I'm using. Then I'm going to click picture format and color. Then I'm going to choose the black and white option. But what you can see is it's left a lot of dark ink and it's still left shading. Yes, it looks nice, but the black line option is going to look better because we're not going to have all the shading. And then that way, if the teacher or student wants to color it on their own, they can. So the next way you can do it is you can select the clip art. You'll right click, change picture from this device, and then you're going to find that clip art on your computer. And once you find it in the folder once, when you go back to switch it out for the other clip art, you're not going to have to go back to the folder. You'll see what I mean here in a minute. So this clip art is by Sarah Percorino and it's Emotions. So I'm going to go ahead and find the black white option. And here we go. You won't notice it as much on this one, but the shading left. Now let's do this one. We're going to change picture. I'm going to find the little girl here and just see how that's just a better black and white option. This one actually ended up being okay. I might leave it. This one, I think his hair might be a little bit different, so it's easier to see. So I'm going to change him out. I'm going to change her. And now you can see that I have quickly changed out all the clip art to Blackline, and I have both of these options that I can offer in a product. The last tip I have for you when it comes to harnessing the power of PowerPoint is always including a digital option with your resource when possible. Sometimes it's not possible, but if you can, I highly suggest it. It adds a lot of value to your product. And in fact, if you purchased the All Access Pass to this teacher author conference, then you'll get 3 digital game templates from me that you can use for your resources that you're selling, and you can make them your own and include a fun Jeopardy game, a matching game. You can use the spinning wheel, and you can match it to the topics and resources you've created to have a digital option. But right now, I'm also going to show you how to create a digital game show that you could use. So if you had a quiz product that was printable or task cards, and you were trying to figure out a fun way to make those digital, more than just typing them up and having them on a PowerPoint, you could create a fun game show. So I'm going to show you how to do that now in PowerPoint. Before I show you how to do it, I want to give you an example of one I've created. So I'm giving you templates, and with these templates, you have the power to insert your own clip art and your own music and all of that to create your own fun game. But I want to show you what a fun game can end up looking like. Now, usually this wouldn't show, but it is on my slide. So you would just see this first slide, and this is what teachers and students see. Then you click on one of the questions. 63 divided by 9. What if I thought that was 6? Oh, that was wrong. So click here to continue. What if I thought that was 7? Ah, fun. And back to the game board. So I'm going to show you the very basics of setting up your own Jeopardy style game show game. But remember, if you bought the all access pass, I gave you a template for it and you're ready to go and all the hard work is done. You just get to design one and you're good to go. Okay, so to create your game, you're going to open up a new PowerPoint and you don't have to change the slide size of anything because this is the correct slide and the best format when shown on a computer. I'm going to go ahead and I like to insert some blank slides. And we're going to make this very, very basic because this is just an example. But let's do 5 topics and we'll just go to 300 points. So there's only going to be 15 questions if we were to do this template. I'm going to go ahead and change that. And then I'm going to actually not just type in here. This would be topic 1, topic 2, topic 3, topic 4, and topic 5. Then I'm going to add the point values here, however you want to do that. Next, I'm going to highlight the boxes and I'm just going to center them. You can change the font. I like to use fonts that are already on PowerPoint in case I hyperlink this text. Then when it transfers over to a teacher, it doesn't end up all wonky. So like all computers have Century Gothic, so I like to use that one for the game board. You can also change the different colors of the table, and you can choose different shading. Then what you're going to do is you're going to add a new slide. This is going to be our question slide. We'll call this question number 1. And to keep things consistent, we're going to use the same font. I'm going to make it big here. And then I'm going to add some buttons. They can be shapes. They can be movable clip art. And I'm going to add my buttons here. This is choice 1. We'll just actually, let's call it, this will be the right answer. And then we're going to copy it, make a new button. This will be the wrong answer. And then we'll copy this again. We'll make 4 answer choices to choose from. Obviously, you're going to space them out better to make sure everything's even. But you'll have your answer choices. You'll write your question. Maybe you'll have some cute clip art. You're going to make sure all the fonts and the colors are all matching. Remember, we want to keep our styles consistent here. I'm going to go to shape fill. Okay, now the next thing you're going to do is you're going to have another slide. This slide is going to be the correct, like, congratulations, you got it right. Congrats, because they got it correct. And if they get it correct, they go back to the game board. So you need to add a button somewhere on the slide. So this will be our button and it will be game board. Then you need to have a try again, you got it wrong slide. Try again. And this will go back to the question. We'll say back to question. Okay, so each question in your game will need to have a group of 3 slides. We'll have to have a question, a congrats, and try again. Next comes the hyperlinks. With the hyperlinks, I'm going to start with my game board. The hyperlinks are going to link with clicks when we're in presentation mode from one slide to the next. So I am going to highlight 100 because this is linked to topic number 1, question 1. I'm going to right click, link. I'm going to choose slide 2. Now, this is important. Don't choose next slide, last slide, previous slide, because if you add slides before or after the presentation, then that changes what it's linked to. But if I choose slide 2, then this 100 is always linked to this slide, even if this slide is pushed down because I add another slide before the game board. So just make sure to always link to the actual number that it currently is in the game. Then I'm going to come to question 1, and I'm going to link these buttons to either the congrats or the try again. So our right answer is this first one, the correct answer, and that is slide 3. So I'm going to right click, link to slide 3. Then I'm going to right click, link to slide 4. And I'm going to do that to every single button here. Then I'm going to hyperlink the congratulations page. And this goes back to the game board. So I'm going to link it to slide 1. And the try again is linked to slide 2. Now, once you do one set of these, you can always go back and check to make sure it worked. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to go to presentation mode. And I'm going to check out my hyperlink. So I'm going to click 100. Yay, went to question 1. Now let's choose wrong answers first. Okay, try again. Back to question 1. Try again. Try again. Right answer, congrats. And then back to the game board. So that is how you would make a Jeopardy game. You would go through and do that to every single question.